What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Real Wealth, your investing channel to help you make more money, help you keep more money, and then take that money to enjoy more life. Mikey, what's up? Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, how's it going, Mike? Nice to see you again. It's crazy. Every week, we talk for an hour, and there's so much stuff to go over again today.
I know. Isn't it crazy? Yeah. So we have a good amount to get to here. A Bitcoin all-time highs, a Bitcoin proxies going crazy, Microstrategy. Oh, what else we got? Solana going crazy, meme coins continue to run. Yeah, just a ton. So we'll just get right into it. So like we do every week, I just wanted to start kind of with what's going on in the markets. Like I said, lots of green again. We have Bitcoin. Oh, the market cap of all of crypto now, it's at $2.7 trillion. Remember a couple, I don't know, it's more than a couple weeks now, but remember when it was just in and around like a trillion? Like, doesn't that sound crazy?
It's crazy. Like who does that? Like this is the best performing ETF launch of all time. There's
Yeah,
no ETF in history that has
yeah,
performed this well. It's beat them all.
yeah, yeah. And we'll get into that. When we say that the overall crypto market cap, that encompasses all crypto coins. So it literally went from 1 to $2.7 trillion in a relatively short time. So let me just share my screen here and show you guys some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine what's going to happen in the next year when that's happened in like a month.
I know. Yeah, and we have been imagining that. You see my screen good?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there it is. Like I said, 2.7 trillion overall crypto market cap. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana all went crazy last week. Here's a real good visual here just to kind of show that really quick. Almost 10% gains in Bitcoin again. This almost seems like a repeat of last week, but I can
And
assure you this is,
Ethereum went up even more.
yep, Ethereum. Um, I don't know why. Some of these things, like it shows red, but there's no way Solana is red.
Well, Solana might have dropped a few percent like today, but it's up massively this week.
Yeah, yeah. So I like charts. I like visuals like this. It just instantly shows you. Yeah, we'll
Visual is
update.
important because me and Mike will look at stuff like this and the banter bubbles, and you get
Yeah,
a quick snapshot of exactly what's going on.
yeah. Well, I might as well, since you mentioned it. So this is the banter bubbles. So this is over the last week. So there's some familiar ones on here that were on here last week as well. Some of the meme coins are dominating again. Whiff. I got into this one last week.
You got the
Pepe,
whiff.
Bonk. Oh yeah, Floki. So these are all again meme coins. There's a couple other here on the list. I know Mikey got into Phantom. Probably been in it for a little bit now, so you're doing well. Render, you and I, and we've also mentioned this to our community as well, plus 54% in a week. There's SHIB, another meme coin.
Beam.
I don't know what RBN is. So Beam is a gaming one. Rune, I know you've mentioned that one before. WLD is a gaming one. You own Uniswap. It's good. It's good. So big green circles are what you want to see. A cash network as well. This is an AI
Yeah.
one that we've been talking about. Gala's gaming one. So those are just some of the. This gives you a quick snapshot of what narratives are moving.
And right before we started our video, Mike, I scanned over what was doing the best today. Like render's up another 18% today. Like everything's going crazy. And I love having a snapshot view of this stuff.
Yeah, and it lets you see it really quick. Now stocks. I'll let you pop in here and share really quick what you saw on the stock front.
Yeah, so the stock market, I mean, we're going to go over it a little bit after, but like, I mean, generally speaking, it depends what stock you own. Like, if you owned Nvidia the past 2, 3 months, you're really happy. If you own the wrong stock recently, you're like, why is everyone so happy about the stock market? It really depends which one you own. And
Yeah,
with cryptos, for the most part, it's pretty even across the board for most of them.
yeah, yeah. If you're in greed index, I know it was a little bit higher and it started to creep back a little bit, but this has been in the kind of the green and the greed for a little bit. So just something to keep in mind here that can stay there for a bit and not to use that as your primary indicator, because especially in bull runs, things can sit in the 80s and the 90s for a bit. So use this as one of your tools, one of your indicators, but don't trade just based on the fear and greed index.
Yeah, I'd be careful with that. I have people messaging me the past 2 weeks saying, the RSI is too high on these cryptos and the fear versus greed index for cryptos. Mike just showed it with 90 last week, I think. And if you just get out every time those numbers get high, you're going to miss out on the peaks of rallies. And sometimes they last for weeks longer.
Yeah.
And so I think you need to be really, really careful with that. And don't invest scared, invest intelligently. And hopefully we can be part of informing you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We have to share all the good things going on with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the leader in market cap among all cryptocurrencies. And we've been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. The biggest catalyst right now is that there's a lot of money coming in, and it seems to be accelerating. So there was a record week last week for multiple of the ETFs. And remind us, Mikey, how many ETFs, how many Bitcoin ETFs are there?
So there's 11 of them, and obviously 2 or 3 of them are the most meaningful ones buying the biggest amounts.
Yeah, and I'll show you a chart of where kind of all the money is. But so IBIT, which is BlackRock's ETF, is the leader. So that means they hold the largest amount of assets under management. So look at this. One day, this is so crazy. They had $842 million worth of inflows. That is almost $1 billion. And Mikey mentioned that there's a bunch of ETFs. This is just one.
And last week, remember we were saying how it was 600 million, which was the most ever. Now it's 842 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just one. So here's another one. So here's Fidelity. I think this is the probably number 2 or number 3 on the list. They hit a record of 473 million. And Mikey just sent me this one before the call. So Microstrategy, which is a Bitcoin proxy, which we'll talk a little later. And I have an extra big smile on my face because I own a good amount of MicroStrategy, and Mikey will show us a chart later. It's been doing very, very well. So they've been accumulating for probably at least 4 years, at least. So they've been consistently buying and buying and buying. And where's this one?
BlackRock beat them in 2 months. They beat them in 2 months, and MicroStrategy has been building for years.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's massive. So this is the supply shock one. So I know this is not the easiest to read just because this is a whole summary of all of the ETF purchases since its inception in early January. So as you can see here, so on the far left is BlackRock, then Fidelity, then Bitwise. So I think it's ranked in order of how many assets they have under management. So you can see how, there's up and down days, but over time, it went from like 198 million to 500 million to 600 million to 788 million, right? So there's more and more money coming into Bitcoin, and it just seems like the faucet has been turned on, and it's just been turned on. It's been turned on a little bit. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the analogy I used last week. The faucet has been replaced with the fire hose, and now the fire hose is spraying in, and it's just way more money. They've overshadowed MicroStrategy, who's been building for years, in 2 months. Like, that's crazy. So,
Yeah.
A lot of people are scared of Bitcoin. They point out the 2022 crash. Some people are scared of stocks. They point out the 2008 crash. If you're scared of those moments in history, you need to learn from history because you're going to miss out on the next rally.
That's right. Yeah. So we get messages all the time from people. Oh, I'm in the money. Thanks for your recommendations. Like, do I sell now? Like I'm plus 30%. I'm plus 50%. I just doubled my money. Like, shouldn't I get out now? And, we all have our different risk tolerances, and we all have different entries, and, but like Mikey said, we just went from the faucet just being turned on a little bit to like the fire hose is getting turned on. And there is a, in our opinion, again, not financial advice, there it should be more gains here because it really comes down to supply and demand. So when all of these, there's the demand is created by all of these ETFs wanting to buy everyone's Bitcoin. There's only 900 Bitcoin mined per day currently. And then in, I think it's a month and a half now, the halving occurs. So increased supply. Mikey says we're turning up from the faucet, just a bathroom tap to a fire hose. So crazy supply and insane amounts of less demand. It should only do one thing. Like that's why I'm like insanely bullish right now. And the Bitcoin halving is in previous years was a massive catalyst on its own. And that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, like it's kind of like, in the 90s they released a Tickle Me Elmo, or maybe there's a Taylor Swift ticket or the new hottest toy that comes out.
Yeah.
Everyone wants it, and now there's even more people that want it, and they're rich and they're going to buy a bunch of them. So good luck getting that on the store shelf, right? You have
Yeah.
a bunch of demand and the same amount of supply.
Yeah. And corporations and companies where they used to hold just balances of cash in their account, now they're holding Bitcoin. So you sent this one to me, Mikey. What's this?
Well, I mean, Elon Musk was known in 2020, 2021 for inspiring one of the biggest portions of the rally when he admitted that Tesla just bought a bunch of Bitcoin. The market went crazy and everyone listened to Elon Musk. He could do no wrong. He's a genius and everyone loved him and they followed him into Bitcoin. And, they haven't really updated us on what they own in terms of Bitcoin. So everyone had these old numbers. This week, they admitted they own like thousands more Bitcoins than we knew. And like they've
Yeah.
probably been adding to their Bitcoin portfolio because, again, they're being advised by the smartest financial people on earth. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what they're doing. They're owning more cryptos to be able to make more profits.
That's right. So not only are companies like Tesla profiting from their products and services, now they kind of just get to have this in their account. And it says here they made over half a million in profits. Actually doesn't even sound like crazy
I think it
amounts.
might be a little more than that, but
Yeah. So they own 1.3 billion worth of Tesla or of Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin goes up, so do their balance sheets. And then so does their share price and more profits for the holders. So, and then because companies used to kind of be quiet about this, they didn't share this stuff because they didn't want people to, oh, they're losing their focus. What are they crazy? They're investing in this high risk asset. Now, all of a sudden, the government gives it the stamp of approval and we're all good. Like now it's not risky all of a sudden. Now companies and various individuals are more open to sharing this. So the more and more they share this, what do you think happens when other corporations see these corporations doing it? They're more likely to do it as well. When they do that, it creates more demand, and more demand means number go up.
yeah, they used to call everyone crazy for owning Bitcoin 4 years ago, especially 8 years ago. And if Michael Saylor went on TV, they called him crazy. He's not Elon Musk. Who cares? Now, if you want to call someone crazy for owning Bitcoin, you just point at Larry Fink. You point at Elon Musk. They're not crazy. Ray Dalio's not crazy. So now you just have to accept it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like I said, so the Bitcoin halving is even less than 40 days away now. So 36 days. And Mikey and I were going to do a video outlining what happens in previous Bitcoin halving cycles, which is crazy. Do you want to bring up while we're at it, bring up a Bitcoin chart right now? You can probably show this really quick on your end. I'm going to stop sharing. Just real quick, show us kind of what
Sure.
happened in previous Bitcoin cycles. Usually there's a run up going into it, then things go crazy after the halving. But this cycle is different. We're almost at all-time highs and we're 36 days before the halving. So yeah, there's a lot of catalysts that go into making this major upswing.
So I'm going to go to a weekly chart, which means each candle here represents a week of action in the market, and it lets us see things with a better view here. So if you look here, what you're going to notice is the big rally of 2020 and 2021 here, and
Yeah.
then the rate hike bear trend where they raised the rates and crashed the market. Look where we are now, Mike. We're again right back up again at the all-time high, and we're just getting started. Like Larry Fink and those guys, they're still buying.
Yeah.
Tesla might buy more.
Yeah.
It's it's just getting started, in my opinion. Again, we're in the second or third inning now, as I've been saying, and we're already at an all-time high. Back in 2020, we weren't at an all-time high in March. No
Yeah.
way. This is moving faster because we're working with a fire hose for cash coming in instead of a regular faucet.
Yeah. So bring put the ruler, measure the bottom from September 2020 way
You
back. Yeah, from
yeah
there to the top. So it looks like it went from holy shit, 70, 79.50,
yeah it was only it
5,000.
was only like 4,000, and
Wow.
it went up to around 68,000. So it went up like 1,300% in
Yeah. So
2020.
Mikey and I, we watch a lot of podcasts, we watch a lot of videos, we consume a lot of content, and people like Kathy Wood, Raoul Paul, Van Eck, a whole bunch of different feeds that we follow. Like we hear conservatively sometimes, like $500,000 Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin, and when you hear that, it's like, what? You're crazy. But what happens when something goes up 13%? Right? Like the beginning of
1,300.
this cycle, we were around, yeah, there you are. We were around 15-ish thousand, and we're currently at 68,000. That's 350% gain. And we just broke all-time high, which is massive for something for an asset to do.
And you'll remember, like, it went up 1,300% or more last time. And I keep saying we're in the second or third inning. Doesn't
Yeah.
that make sense now? We're up 350 million. It's only a portion of what
Yeah.
we went up last time. And
Yeah.
last time there was no ETFs or Blackrock.
Right.
So we're just getting started here, folks. I mean, it could dip in the next few months, but long term, I think it's going way higher.
Yeah. So again, not financial advice, but there's a lot of really good catalysts that keep Mikey and me holding right now. So we're that's what's on the go with Bitcoin. So also, there were some really weird days last week. So as we were approaching the Bitcoin all-time high, like things were running, like it was going like 5% a day, 8% a day, 10% a day, which is a lot for a big asset like that to move. So we were, and Mikey and I were messaging back and forth that day. We're like, oh, we're so close to all-time high, right? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So what ended up happening that day? There was two really crazy days that happen. Big up, then some down, then up again. Like what causes that? Why does that happen?
I mean, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on that. I just call it manipulation. I mean, I've been in the markets for a long time. I know how it works. The
Yeah.
people, the people with the big money can swing it around, just like a scalper can go buy all the tickets and pump up the prices on you. So, there's people that can inject money and make it go higher, and they can short it or take
No,
money
that
out,
doesn't happen.
right? So that's just kind of the way it works. And once you accept that,
Yeah.
then you'll expect that.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about it for weeks. I said, Larry Fink, I call him the Fink now.
The
He's gonna help manipulate the markets or give a couple phone calls to his buddies to probably help him out. Now, this is just speculation, I guess. I can't prove anything, but let's be realistic here. I mean, we know that type of stuff is going on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, you want me to pull up the chart and show people here?
Sure. Yeah.
So this is the daily chart now for Bitcoin, okay? And you can see here we were around 50,000 here not too long ago, February. And we went up a lot. We went up to 65 grand pretty quickly in 3 days back then.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty smooth, right? It goes sideways, it goes up, and then you have this big red day here.
Yeah, so that's the staircase, right? Up a bunch, consolidate a bit, up a bunch. Look, that's healthy
It's healthy. I mean, the thing is, it's not even much of a
ish.
staircase. It's kind of going sideways and then up, and then sideways and then up. And
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting how that's working. But the main thing to point out here is this big red guy right here. Okay.
yeah,
And if you don't understand how this works, what this means is at the top here, that's the high point that it reached, about 69,000.
yeah,
And then in that same day, it went to like 58,000 in the same day. So it
yeah.
dropped like, 10 or
And
15%. And that all happened in one day. So if I get the ruler out here, I'll measure it for you guys. But
yeah,
at one point, we were way up here and it fell all the way to the bottom. It
yeah,
dropped 14% in the same day. And it happened in like, minutes.
yeah. And that was the largest drop, not percent wise, but the dollar amount. That was $10,000
Yeah.
drop in one day. So and we get messages from people, oh, are we done? That's it, we're done. Right. And we remind people, just zoom out. Like a week prior, like it was in the 50s. Right. So just be mindful that, hey, remember, it just went up 40%. The like a 20% pullback isn't, look at that, 40%. Like it's not fun to see, but also you got to remember what your time frame is. So Mikey and I, like, we're, as you can see, we're very bullish right now, and we believe things should do well for the next year and a half. So if your time frame is a year and a half, don't get super concerned with what goes on in the day. Like, you got to pay attention, but don't be so like mesmerized by what goes on in a day. Remember, 40% upswings, like people are taking profits. And I also wanted to circle back on kind of the manipulation as well. So there's people that short the market and there's people that long the market. So short means you think it'll go down, long means you think it'll go up. Now, the big guys, they have access to different trading platforms that allow them to see orders that are placed. So there's people out there, the general public or big institutions, they'll put these things called limit orders. So that's kind of their protection to get out. So what happens when things skyrocket? It's called a short squeeze. So there's a lot of buyers and they're pushing up the price. And when they push up the price, they're forcing these short sellers to buy back their coins. And we'll talk more in detail about how all that works. And we have trainings on this, we have courses on this. It's it's just what happens, and it's just interesting to see it play out. So there was like almost repeat days this week of like crazy bull, crazy up. Then, like Mikey said, within minutes, we're dipping crazy, like red. Like Mikey's messaging me, he's like, "Oh, dude, like it's turned." I'm like, "What? I mean, we just hit all-time highs. How do we turn that quick?" He's like, "Oh, we're turning hard." And then I'm bullish. Like I was talking about Microstrategy and like again, if you're a believer of where this is going, it's not always easy to buy on down days, but those are your sale days. Those are the days where
Yeah.
it helps you reduce your cost, your dollar cost average.
And I'll say this too, like, I don't want to have people think that I'm coming up with the conspiracy theory here with Larry Fink. Like, I mean, this
Don't
is the
fade the Fink.
reality, right? The Fink, like this is the reality. So Bitcoin dropped over 10% after it hit 69,000. And then there's the Fink, Larry Fink. And BlackRock added
There's
a
the
record
Fink.
amount of Bitcoins on Tuesday's carnage. Like they totally bought the carnage, the drop. And I mean, I can't prove that they caused it or talk to people that knew it was coming, but come on, like, what I mean? It's just one of those things that I just assume that's the way it went. And now they own, the 4% of the supply is now owned by spot ETFs. It's not 3% anymore. It's between 4 and 5%. So, when
Yeah,
I say stuff like that, there's proof that he bought on the day of the carnage.
yeah,
And, it dropped in like 3 minutes. It dropped very, very quickly. That's too convenient for me.
yeah, yeah. Um, so Still kind of on the topic of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy. So we've talked in previous episodes about Bitcoin proxies. So proxies are things that run because Bitcoin does well. So there's MicroStrategy. They're the company that holds the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Then there's other companies like CleanSpark and Riot. These are miners. So they make their money from mining Bitcoin. So if you get a sec, Mikey, bring up the MicroStrategy chart, and there's news around that as well. Like this thing has run so much more than Bitcoin itself. So there's two catalysts there. There's probably more, but part of it is Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy goes up because MicroStrategy owns a whole lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And another catalyst is there's been rumors that they're going to be listed on the S&P 500.
Yeah.
I've read that they check all the boxes to be on there, but even though they check the boxes, the higher ups sometimes don't want these certain stocks on there. I know this happened with Tesla as well. So when something like this gets put on the S&P 500, I'll let you share, Mikey, on you can share on the chart, and then you can share the implications of what does a new listing on a new index mean?
Yeah, so I mean, you can see my chart analysis already on the screen here, and you could see that there's resistance levels in three specific areas here. And you see the peak of this rally here, you see a gap on the chart here, and you see the peak of this rally here. Those are your three levels. I go
Yeah.
over that in the training course in more detail. But you'll see that we broke out above these levels. I mean, look how big we broke out over here, and just nice and fresh on Friday we just broke out again. Me and Mike have been commenting how much money we've made on MicroStrategy this week. I mean, look at that smile, right? Like it's just
I got
it's
to get a MicroStrategy hat. You got your Bitcoin and Ethereum.
so this is going up tremendously, and I mean, I'm doing call options, and I'm making even more money on those. And I mean, like from back here, this is in February 7th. So remember
Wow.
back in January, things had fallen after the ETFs, but then they started running. So, at this point here at the first resistance, it was up 70%.
Yeah.
At the second resistance, it was up 127%. Now it went up as much as 205%
And guys, keep in
recently.
mind here, like, look at that. That's 33 days. That's a little more than a month. That's crazy even to think that and this is a stock. This isn't like a crypto coin. Crypto coins sometimes aren't the easiest to buy. Like there's just a little bit of extra setup that you need to do to get that going. With this, that's a straight up stock. You type in MicroStrategy into Interactive Brokers or whatever brokerage you use, and you just buy it. Like that's how that works.
Yeah,
So, and share real quick what the potential of an S&P 500 listing means.
yeah. So I mean, we've already been making good money on it, and it went up 200%. I mean, I'm making even more on the options because it's a leveraged function. But another way to leverage your returns is that something, like when an athlete goes from the junior leagues to the NFL, they're going to sell more jerseys and they're going to make more revenue
Yeah,
for the company
yeah,
because they're with the big boys in the NFL now. They're on the big stage,
yeah,
you know. If Taylor Swift was playing in a coffee house, she's not going to make as much money as a stadium. It's
yeah.
just the way it goes. You get more attention. And so here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to share something a little special here. So I've gone over this example in my Invest Like Mike group, and I'm going to bring it up here because it makes sense. Okay. So
Yeah.
this isn't necessarily about Tesla, but it's going to relate to the MicroStrategy S&P listing. So in 2020, we were in the middle of the pandemic. They printed a whole bunch of money, and then Tesla was performing well. Their earnings were doing well. There's an earnings that sent them up, right? Boom, right?
Yeah.
And here's what ended up happening, Mike. I don't know if you remember this, but I have a really good mind, like a Rolodex for remembering these events in time. Okay. So right here, we have what's called a pennant pattern that I was posting about. And it's like a triangular formation here that we had leading up to the US election. And the US election happened at the beginning of November 2020. So that's what you're seeing here. This is the election drop here, right here with Tesla. And so did the markets. Then what ended up happening was right here, right here, I know those candles very well. They announced that they were going to be listed on the S&P in December, and the announcement was made in November. Well, look what happened. Before it was even listed on the S&P, it went up this much. Okay.
Yeah.
It went up from like, I mean, the numbers are different now, but back then it was $400. It went to 650. And then when it got listed on the S&P, it went up tremendously higher because now you have a whole bunch of wealthy investors and you're in the NFL of stocks. And Tesla was selling more and more vehicles and they were performing on
Yeah.
top of the S&P listing. Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, now we're going to have MicroStrategy potentially going on the S&P while Bitcoin is performing well and all they own is Bitcoin.
Double
So
whammy.
it's the same setup as Tesla as long as Bitcoin keeps performing and MicroStrategy goes on the S&P.
Yeah. So, and it's similar to like an ETF. It just allows for more people to buy into it. It's basically these funds, they allocate X% towards certain indices. So if you're in that indice, then that just means it's an automatic buy of a certain percentage of every listing in that index. So
Yeah,
it's
there's a
just
lot of
the whole we're turning up the fire hose, right? And it's double fire hose now for MicroStrategy because they're getting the fire hose crazy from Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy has significantly outperformed Bitcoin over the last couple months. And layer on the rumor of an S&P 500 listing, which I've read that they match, I guess, almost the majority of the criteria to be on there. It's just a matter of the higher up saying, yeah, okay, well, we concede. We'll just kind of like they did with the ETF. Like there's so much demand, and the people want it, so they kind of get forced to do it.
I'll just point out one quick thing here. So when Tesla got put onto the S&P, there's an index fund called SPX, and I think there's others. SPX is like the BlackRock ETF, where BlackRock's buying a bunch of Bitcoin. The SPX, though, buys a piece of every stock in the S&P, and they buy bigger chunks of Apple and good ones. Okay.
Yeah.
So previous to the S&P, they were buying $0 of Tesla every month, zero. As soon as Tesla got on there, they had to buy like 3% of their portfolio just in Tesla. So you're injecting all these rich people's money right into Tesla when they were never buying it before, just like the BlackRock ETF.
Right.
That's going to happen to MicroStrategy. So that's
Yeah.
coming. There's going to be an injection into MicroStrategy if they get on there.
I like that.
Yeah,
So,
we
so
do.
the type of investing that we do and how we do our research is we learn from the past. There's trends, there's patterns. Success leaves clues. And when Mikey brought up the Tesla example, that is a great example of the potential of what could happen when something gets listed on something, right? Now, there's a multiplier effect that we're in a bull market, we think, and we think it will continue, and we think Bitcoin will be higher, and MicroStrategy holds the largest amount of Bitcoin aside from the ETFs on their balance sheet. So it just perpetuates. And MicroStrategy, they figured out this amazing model where they own a company, they issue more shares of their company, which allows them to raise cash. Then they convert cash, the dollar, which is devaluing itself all the time. It's a depreciate, like it's an asset that's worth less every day. And they're investing that into a hard asset like Bitcoin, where there's limited supply that goes up when there's less demand. Then what do? The week later, a couple weeks later, they do it again. They issue more shares, and it's just self-perpetuating. They buy more shares, increases demand, which means there's less supply, which means the price of Bitcoin goes up, which means MicroStrategy's balance sheet gets greater, and then they repeat. I don't know why hasn't been a lot of other companies that are kind of onto this. I don't know the latest figure, but MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor is very much in the green now. And him doing this over the last couple years probably wasn't easy. And I'm sure he got a lot of ridicule, but he was very forward thinking. Even you and I, Mikey, like over the last couple of years, like we were buying in the bear market. People are like, yeah, you're crazy. Bitcoin's a scam. It's used for fraud and all this stuff. And they're okay. Now things have turned. Now things are at all-time high. Now we're getting messages from people of, oh, what's going on? Am I too late? How do I get in? Right? So, which actually leads me into, let me just share this. I shared this last time too. And so this is something where you can get a quick snapshot of the Coinbase app. So Coinbase is an exchange where people buy crypto, and we track how the ranking of the Coinbase app on Apple Store. So every week now it's going down, down, down. So the closer it gets to one, it means that more people are downloading it. And they're downloading it because they're seeing potential for profits. And, as this gets down, 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 it just means more and more people are downloading it. So look at this. So, it's at 51, then it was at 69. So it bounces around. But weeks ago when we were tracking this thing, it was like 400. Then it was like 350. Then it was like 250. Now we're into the double digits, right? Like
Yeah, now it's
it's
79.
79 here, like it's 90. So it bounces around. But the point here is that it's bouncing down, which means it's a more popular app, which means more and more people are getting into it. And when more and more people are buying or getting an app that allows you to buy crypto, what do you think that does to the crypto price?
Yeah, and I
Aside
mean,
from all the ETF buys.
it's crazy to see all this stuff happen. And I mean, just to touch on your earlier point, I've had people grind my gears over the years, like, Mike, you keep posting the past, tell me the future. And I'm like, you can't predict the future without looking at the past. And although history does not always repeat, it often rhymes. And that's why I use that Tesla example. And, for me, I like using history and chart patterns from the past. I mean, there was a big boxing fight this weekend. If you're going to box someone, you better watch their old tapes,
Yeah,
because if you don't think they're going to fight similarly in the future, you don't know boxing. And if you don't think that the past of a stock chart will help predict its future, you don't know stock charts. Like, I mean, that's just the way it works. And there's
yeah,
behavior mechanisms there. And a stock chart is just a display of human emotions when investing. And that's
yeah.
what I use to my advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And these are some of the things that you're going to share in your upcoming course. So you have a course coming up in we're doing an in-person in Mexico in May, which I'm super excited about. I know we have some people registered for that already. And then you're doing an online one in April, right?
Yeah, so April, begin first week of April there, we're going to do an online one. We've already got a few people interested there. And then in Mexico, Cabo, beautiful Cabo, Mexico, we're going to be doing tacos and training courses.
Tacos and
And
training. Ooh,
we've already
yeah.
got a handful of people signed
Life
up,
is good,
folks.
huh?
Very good. So
Yeah.
we've already got a handful of people signed up. So I mean, if you want to get in, it's probably not going to be available at some point. And if you want to do the Cabo trip one, you can write that off your trip because you're doing training. You can
Yeah.
go look at real estate and write it off. And it's going to be a really, really good one. It's going to be really nice. You could see here if you go to investlikemike.com at the top, you click the store page, and there's the online training course for April. There's the Mexico training course for May,
Yeah.
and you're going to get my one-on-one guidance there, along with follow-up 1 hour sessions after the course. And Mike's going to be at the Mexico one.
Yeah. And I've been to Mexico a couple of times, never been in Cabo before. So it's awesome. So have fun, learn ways to make more money. And just explore new places. And as Mikey said, I mean, you can write it off. So I've learned a ton from Mikey on technical analysis, and you see all the lines and all those things he's putting on the chart. Those things, in the training helps to make that a lot easier. So I'm excited about that. What else? So Solana. So Solana is another one that you and I have been invested in for a while. So I'm really proud of my learnings over the years and kind of applying what I've learned. Like there's a lot to learn in this space. And a really good thing to learn is dollar cost averaging. And I'm super happy with how I went about buying Solana over the last probably 9 months. My first purchase was in the bear market. I think it was $18.50. And coulda, woulda, shoulda. It would have been cool if I bought a lot more back then. But then I bought more in the 30s, and I bought more in the 45s, and I bought more in the 60s, and I bought all the way up. So as you can see here, Mikey is looking at October 2023 to the present. That's 135 days plus 639%.
Crazy.
That's a whole lot of money. Like that's a whole lot
Crazy.
of gains. And so if we can just like talk a little, and we get messages from people because people are entering all at different spots, right? Most of the people that, kind of followed along in our thinking got to buy a good amount ago, and they're in a lot of profits. Whereas some people are still holding from previous bear market where they bought high and then it crashed and they just kept it. And
Yeah.
I know that feeling because I did some of that in the first cycle as well. And that was one of my big lessons learned of, kind of have a plan going in. So Mikey's drawn some lines here. There's some channels, there's some trend lines. He loves his Elliott waves too.
I
So
mean, what I'm showing here is something called a pennant pattern, and I go over that in the training course. It's one of my favorite patterns. And you'll see that after going up a bunch back here from October onwards, we then dipped, and you could see that we got trapped in the pattern I just drew. And we broke out of that pattern, and now we're off to the races again. And this is no different than that Tesla one I showed you from 2020 as well. There's power in this. And once you learn how to do that, you're going to realize that, hey, we're rallying, we're dropping, but now we're contained in this pattern, and now we're breaking out of this pattern. And it brings a lot of clarity to things rather than just looking at the numerical value and not really understanding what's going on
yeah,
visually.
yeah. And when multiple things line up, so Mikey showed that we broke out of the pennant pattern. And then right above that, looks like there was another red resistance line from, past support and resistance. When you're going through two major things like that, the likelihood of it continuing up and continuing up at a good pace just increases. So this allows you to time your entries and time your exits, like all of these things. So, like when it was coming down to the bottom of that one dotted line, there's a good chance that it could potentially bounce off of that. So if you're a believer in Solana, you're probably going to enter a good amount of your position there. And it's not easy to buy when things go from 120-ish down to 100-ish. It's not easy to buy that. But if you also believe that this is going to reach all-time highs again and then some, you're sitting pretty. Like Mikey and I, we chat all the time, and Mikey's, I want to get into this one, but it's already run so much, and
Tricky.
I want to get in. And then we just remind each other that where do we think it's going to go? And yes, we just bought into something that it just went up 30%, but can it have the potential to go up 200% from here? Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantees, but like Mikey shared on the last episode, the more little green check marks that get checked off, it increases the likelihood from maybe 70% that it'll go up to 75 with check mark number 2 to 85 with check mark number 3. And then, maybe 95% when like 6 check marks line up, which doesn't happen super often. But when it does, you're going to want to double down on your buys. And on the flip side, we're not talking much about selling yet because we're not about to sell.
No.
We're going to do videos on that. But eventually, Mikey will show the 6 red check marks that could line up that give us a signal of, hey, we're getting toppy here and this might be done. And then just like you layered in with your timed buys, you'll start to layer out. And this is going to be it is one of my biggest lessons learned of have a plan, trade your plan, know when you're going to take profits and work towards keeping the emotion out of it.
And I mean, just to point this out, and Mike can vouch for this, and a lot of other people can vouch for this. In my 2020, 2021 training courses, I was teaching people don't assume we're going to be in a bull market forever. Everyone thought they were a genius trader, but the bull market's helping you. So if you
Yeah.
think that right now, me and Mike G here, we're only doing well because the market's doing well, that's just not true. In early 2022, I was telling Mike, he knows, I went all cash on my stocks, I went all cash on my cryptos, and I got out for a very specific reason, backed up by chart analysis. And I was telling the people, my students, exactly what I was doing. So I do what I say, and it's not just the bull market that's helping me. I avoided the majority of the bear market too, and that's important. And
Yeah.
stick with us for the ride, folks. We're here to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we believe good times ahead. So again, not financial advice, our normal disclaimer. We're just two dudes on the internet sharing our opinions. We consume countless hours each of podcasts and interviews and reading. And so what we do is we take all that, it comes in here and we do our little jarble. And then Mikey and I, we chat. We're like, hey, this is what we see going on here. Like this past week, we were chatting about AI. We were talking about like render and cache networks and various things. That's an AI narrative. And there's an AI conference coming up in the next 2 weeks. So again, history sometimes repeats, sometimes it rhymes. Like usually going into conferences, big announcements could be announced. So there's anticipation, and when there's anticipation, certain things run. So the AI sector has been running for a while, but running even more so over the last couple of weeks. And knowing these things are helpful to like I got more into render. I know Mikey got into render. A couple of people that are in our group got into it as well. And yeah, it's another reason for us to have an extra big smile on our
We're
face.
happy.
So, yeah. So, anything else you wanted to toss in here before we end
Well,
this one?
I mean, there's so much more we could have made this a 2 hour one. I mean, there's so much information, so many charts. We didn't even go over render or anything, but we'll try to touch on that next week, and we don't want to make it go too long. I
Yeah,
would just say this, me and Mike are consuming all kinds of content, and we're even consuming content from people that have a whole research team that we're benefiting from.
yeah,
And then we're speaking with each other. I'm translating all of this information into chart analysis, and then we're sharing it with you. So I hope
yeah,
you appreciate the content. Invite other people to the channel on YouTube, share it with them. If you like the training course or anyone else, share it with them, and just stick with us. And we're going to keep doing this for you consistently and take you along for the ride here.
yeah. And just a reminder, I always forget at the beginning, and subscribe to the channel as well. When you do, it allows you to see when we post new videos. So turn your notifications on, as well as when you engage with this video. It helps you see other videos similar to this from us and from other people sharing this type of content. So we appreciate you. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. We read them all. So that's it, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.